Welcome back. This is the second video on the Monitoring, Evaluation, Accountability and Learning framework of the DEAR program. We hope it can help you design your project logical framework and consider strong project teams. Please get back to the DEAR guide for more tips on meal.
When you develop your project, we recommend you carry out an in-depth context analysis first. It helps you and the donor understand why the project is needed. There are several ways to do a context analysis. The first methodology that you surely are familiar with is the problem tree. It helps you select the core issue and find links among causes and effects. Let's look at an example here. The core issue is unsustainable global agriculture with a number of interlinked causes related to consumers, policymakers, or producers. The core issues lead to a number of consequences. Now you may want to select just some sections of the problem tree to be addressed by the project. In this example, you may want to focus on campaigning in red, or advocacy in green, or farmers' education in orange. You can also focus on everything, but then your project becomes rather complex. Instead, you may consider what could be your unique contribution. If you choose, for example, the campaign, the rest will stay as your external factors that you need to take into account in assumptions and risks. A second methodology, alternative to the problem tree, is the appreciative inquiry. This is usually done with your stakeholders. Once you defined what you want to learn more about, you first discover what is already working and how. Then you develop a joint vision with your partners and stakeholders. Afterwards, you look for innovative ways to create the future. And finally, you develop a project framework and action plan. Pause the video to explore the example if you wish. There are some sources of information you might want to research and quote in your application. Along with the context, we will recommend you to analyze your stakeholders too. Stakeholder analysis typically includes those involved in the project implementation, those affected by the project or its core issue, and also the users of the evaluation. This power interest attitude matrix shows stakeholders of a sample project that aims at sustainable farming. According to the matrix, you should focus on the upper right-hand corner, influence these groups, and engage them in your project. The second priority are those in the upper left-hand corner. Not only keep them satisfied, but try to raise their interest and move them to the right. You can then discuss each dimension of the matrix as shown on this slide. Detailed steps are available in the DEAR guide in Annex B.6. For your stakeholder analysis, you may apply an alternative methodology, the outcome mapping as well. You can see www.outcomemapping.ca. The questions you see now on the screen are extra tips on how to choose the right target groups. For example, who could model behavioral changes and encourage others to do the same so that change happens. Pause the video if you're interested. Once you have your context and stakeholder analysis ready, you decide what you want to focus on and why. Then you can start developing your project logical framework, in short, log frame. To build your log frame for the application, you start from the upper left-hand corner and fill in the so-called result chain, the impacts, outcomes, interim outcomes if you wish, and outputs. Then you move to the second column and the third one, etc. Assumptions and risks come at the end. Yet they may help you rethink the results and indicators again. Your first question is, what impact do we want to make on the societal or environmental level? For example, you want that human rights are respected and truly lived at schools. This change reaches beyond the project. Then you explore, who do we want to influence and how? By the project end, what changes in behaviors or relations do we expect? In our case, we want more teachers actively engaged in the issues raised by the project, such as gender equality. To bring about these changes, our project delivers outputs, such as learning materials or enhanced skills of training participants. And to deliver project outputs, we can run trainings or coaching or campaign. We should have enough evidence from previous evaluations, research, or pilots that these activities contribute to the planned outputs and outcomes. If not, we may need to change the activities, actually. You can also draw your result chain. This may help you understand better the relations between activities, outputs, outcomes, and impacts. Have a look at the meal guide at pages 30 or 32 for detailed steps to develop your log frame. We will not spend too much time on assumptions here. I just recommend this graph that may help you select the right assumptions for your project. Once you have the full log frame, check its coherence and consistency. For example, you run teacher training and teachers learn new knowledge and skills on the output level. Then if the national curriculum supports teaching about climate change, then teachers can systematically teach about it, etc. Finally, I'd like to draw your attention on some issues that might hinder your log frame. I've observed that some objectives of projects are too long and layered. For example, a functional network of activists who inform citizens about SDGs so that they engage on a local level. Well, the network is probably your output. Activists informing more citizens or informing them differently than before, that is an intermediary outcome. And the citizens engaged in SDGs on local level are the primary outcome, the specific objective. Some objectives may also be too ambitious, so please check that too. As far as indicators go, there are a few more tips. Think what captures also the quality of changes, not just the numbers. Use both quantitative and qualitative indicators. Check that you measure what you're supposed to measure so that the indicator doesn't, refer to something else than your output or outcome. And then check that you have different indicators for outputs and outcomes. And finally, also ensure baselines and check if data are actually feasible to collect and if you can verify them. A few final checks of the log frame. Check the coherence, the clear link between activities, outputs, and outcomes, that you can really deliver what you promise. And then try to make the logical framework as short as possible so that it's easy to navigate in, so that you can print it on A4 and put it on your notice board for the next few years. Along with the project logic, you need a strong team too. Their projects build diverse structures and processes to secure ownership, facilitate learning, decision-making, and support accountability. Organizational structures can differ substantially among projects. Here we will provide you with some tips only with relation to MEAL, the monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. Please pause this video if needed. While setting up your MEAL team, you may think of different modalities. See Annex B.8 for pros and cons, as well as for division of roles. Finally, remember to go back to the DEAR guide and check chapter 4.4 for project planning tips. See also special tips for subgranting on page 38. We wish you good luck.